Dear friends, in this episode I will try to give an introduction to meditations. We have all heard the word meditation, and unconsciously we do it also every day. Though we do not know that we do meditation, we do it every day. Because meditation is something to do with the mind. The very minute we say meditation we don't do with the body, we do it with the mind. It is an activity of the mind. And it is a focused activity of the mind. Just as the body does some physical exercise, just as the body needs some physical exercise, similarly, the mind also does some mental exercise. It may or may not need it, but then mind does it. So this meditation is something which is an exercise which is done by the mind. First of all, what exactly is meditation? It is something to do with the mind. And mind, if we see, it functions at different levels. For example, I see an object. It may get registered in my mind or not. I just see something and then I just dismiss it. But I focus my attention. I pay attention to that and then see it and then say, okay, this what in front of me, this is this. What I am seeing in front of me is a human being. What I am seeing in front of me is something, some other object. Suppose I apply my mind. So that is, I am applying my mind. Initially I just see and I don't apply my mind. Then I apply my mind. Then later, after some time, I also recall. I also recall means that is something called I know that. So that is what is another level. At yet another level, I start thinking about it. So I formulate my own thoughts about an object. I have got some impressions about that object. Whenever I interacted with that object, I had certain, say impressions. And those impressions are there on my mind. And then I recall all those impressions and I put them in a sequence and I start thinking about it. So that is one type of thinking. So mind acts at these totally different levels. So at this thinking level is what is called meditation on any subject. Somebody who is working on a problem, let us say a mathematician, he is working on a problem. A mathematician, he is just thinking about it and then he is visualizing all the, whatever is the data given and what are all the possibilities, and then his mind is constantly on that particular topic. Suppose you take a scientist is dwelling, his mind is totally focused on that particular issue, whatever issue he is thinking about. So this is something, it is also a meditation, but we don't call it meditation because he is thinking about a mathematical problem or he is thinking about some other scientific issue. But we use this word meditation for the same thinking. We use this word meditation when it applies to something called religion, something called spiritual, say, life. So we use this word in a totally different context. Then what exactly is this thinking? So if we see, putting our own thoughts in a particular order. What is this meditation? Putting our thoughts in an order. Otherwise, mind gets drifted. From morning till evening, say the moment you wake up till you go to bed, the mind is receiving so many impressions. So many impressions are there. You interact with so many people. You may be answering so many phone calls and then speaking to so many people. You may be having some pleasant interactions and unpleasant interactions and all those things. And then the mind gets drifted. And maybe at the end of the day, you just sit quiet and then you start thinking about what exactly has happened during the whole day. And then you start thinking about assessing the importance of each thing. And then trying to know what is important, what is not important, what have I learned today. So that will be a useful exercise. It will be a sort of useful meditation. So meditation is something like putting your thoughts in a particular order. Suppose the body does various movements, isn't it? Body, every day we do various movements. The same movements, if you put in a particular order, in a rhythmic way, it becomes a dance. And we speak, the mouth utters so many sounds, it produces so many sounds. The same sounds, if you produce and if you keep them in a particular order, or you produce in a particular way, it may become a music. So similarly, our own thoughts, you put in a particular sequence, you put in a particular order, it becomes a meditation. And we use this word meditation in the context of religion. When you think about, say, something like God or something about the nature of your own self. So when you apply in the spiritual sense, we use this word called meditation. So then, while talking about, say, the Vedas, we have also come across say the broad structure of the Vedas. Earlier in the earlier say episodes, I have given a brief picture of what Vedas were. So in the Vedas, Veda basically it has to it does a lot of exercise about managing human activity. Vedas, you see, they are written for all the people, for the whole mankind. And then the mankind is every day engaged in so many works. There are good, bad, ugly people, and then all types of people are engaged in all types of activity. So managing human activity is a very big exercise, is a very big task for any religious leader or any leader of any society. So Vedas, they also do the same. So what do? They prescribe certain activities. They say you have to do this particular activity. Every morning you have to get up before the sunrise and then you have to do Sandhya Vandan. You have to do this. These are all the Pancha Maha Yajnas which you have to do. You have to give food to the, needy people, and then you have to give shelter. You have to do this, you have to do that for the society. Everything it ordains. And then it also takes into account the human desires. The human being also has so many desires. So it also takes into account the human desires. Okay, you want, say, wealth. You please do this. You perform this particular ritual. You try to propitiate this god in this particular manner. So there is a manner which is prescribed. So like that, Veda prescribes many activities called rituals. This is called karma. There is a technical word we know. It is called karma. And then the man should not be kept stuck to that level only. Man should be slowly guided to a higher level. For that higher level, it also, say, combines a little bit of meditation to this particular action. So when you are performing a ritual or an action, we know that we all recite various mantras and then we chant so many mantras. While chanting the mantras are so structured that after observing them for some time, your mind tries to focus on the meanings of those words. And then once you try to know the meanings of those words, then you are on the track of this upasana, trying to understand what you are saying, trying to dwell on the meaning of what exactly is the nature of that deity. So say the Vedas, or in other words Upanishads, they give many say ideas about how you have to do meditation and all that. It gives so many exercises about these meditations. And then at a higher level, it talks about what exactly is the nature of the self, what is the nature of the universal self, or what we call Brahma, what is the nature of that ultimate reality which we call Brahma. So that is at the final level. So gradually the Vedas are so structured that they first of all, they make an indisciplined man into a disciplined man. And then this disciplined man, it will bring to the level of thinking. And then after bringing him to this level of thinking, it will again take him to the level of philosophy or final Vedanta, or the knowledge of his own self. So this is how these meditations are structured. So when we come to these meditations, there are again two types of meditations. In the Vedas also there are two types of meditations. One is about, say, meditating on a particular god form. We know that Vedas, they have several, say, though the ultimate reality is only one, the ultimate reality is manifest in so many forms. And all these forms, they are associated there as divine, as that ultimate reality. They are also divine. The human being also is divine. According to our theory, according to our Siddhanta or the doctrine, the human being is not different from the ultimate reality. He is not different from the supreme reality. The innate nature of the individual is the same as that of supreme reality. So that is why, various things which we see in nature, they are visualized as divine entities. So in those divine entities, suppose you meditate on a god like Vishnu, or a god like Rudra, or some other god called Ganesha. Each has a particular concept. Vishnu is a particular concept of a particular divine form. Ganesha is another concept. Rudra is another concept. So you are depending on your own nature, depending on your own requirements, depending on your own desires. These are the desire-driven, say, worship, let us say. This ritual which is desire-driven, and then in that desire-driven ritual, you do a particular meditation about focusing on that particular divine form. So that is what is called meditation on a personal God. So that is at a normal level. where the desire-driven level. But then the Veda doesn't want to keep you at that level only. It wants to take you to a higher level, that is knowing your own self, knowing your own nature, etc. So it will slowly wean away the human being from mere ritual to the level of bring him to upasana, and then from this upasana level it will try to elevate him to the level of the higher philosophical level. So that higher philosophical level, that is a meditation, not desire-driven meditation, but it is a meditation which is a truth-seeking, we can call it a truth-seeking meditation. From a desire-driven meditation, you are getting graduated to a truth-seeking meditation. So that is what we see in these Vedic upasanas. So that is the first thing which we have to understand. Number one is meditation is something which is an exercise of the mind, which we do every day. And then the same thing when applied to, say, the spiritual context, it is called a meditation. And then in this meditation, the Vedas, they talk about two types of meditations. One at the level of a personal God, and the other at the level of the impersonal, what is called Brahman, or the supreme reality. So this is the fundamental point we have to see about meditation. Then, secondly, let us see what exactly are the type of these exercises. You see, I told that these Vedas, they give lot many examples, they give lot many exercises as to how you have to do this. You should not say straight away you do meditation, how are you going to meditate? So it should also tell you how you have to meditate. So for example, the one very common thing is about what is the relationship between the individual and the universe. So that is one meditation. What is the relationship between the individual and the universe? So first of all, the Vedanta tells you, for example, Taittiriya Upanishad, for example, it tells you how the universe has evolved or it has come into being. It is not as though on one particular day God started creation and then He created as He wished. It is not like that. Our Upanishads say that it is something like an evolution. Atmanaha akasha sambhutaha akashadvayu. This also I explained in an earlier episode. Probably in one of the earlier episode, second or third episode itself, I told about how this world has come into existence, universe has come into existence. So it says that initially whatever is that supreme principle called consciousness, that consciousness has some creative power which is called Prakriti or Maya, it is called by different names, and that creative power which manifests in that consciousness, from that initial formation is the space, and from that space, in that space, the next thing which emerged is air, the next thing which emerged is fire, the next thing which emerged is water, the next thing which emerged is the solid. Initially the same fire becomes fluid and then it becomes solid, and then Prithivya Oshadhaya, all the plant kingdom has come from this, and then from Oshadhi, Annam, that is food, all this plant kingdom has become the food for various beings, and that is how the living being has come into existence. So that is how it is almost similar to the Darwin's theory of evolution. So that is what we find in Taittiriya Upanishad, the second part of the Taittiriya Upanishad. The second part, the first Anuvaka, the first passage in the second chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad. So similarly, there are accounts given in earlier Upanishads, or other Upanishads also. So the Upanishad initially says this, and then it asks you to dwell on that. Then what exactly is your nature? If you have to realize what is where you have come from something called Atma, which is consciousness, and that consciousness initially became space, and then from that space, air, in that particular form you have come. And then the Upanishad also says that your body-mind complex is something, your Indriya means sense organs. These sense organs are derived from the 5 elements. Prithvi, earth, water, fire, air and space. So these 5 elements, all the Indriyas, the 5 senses are just reproductions of the 5 elements. And then our mind is a collective reproduction of the 5 elements. And then the flesh and blood which we see, that is again another form of the five elements. So whatever we see in any being, not merely human being, you may take you may take a lion, you may take some other goat, you may take an ant, whatever it is, all these things, they are derived from these five elements only. And then the human being, once he starts speculating on this, he has to speculate, he has to meditate on this. Once he starts meditating on this, then he will realize not only that, you see, the human mind is so structured. We are in India, and we also think 2 plus 2 is 4. You take a gentleman from Africa. A gentleman from Africa also thinks 2 plus 2 is 4. Another aboriginal person from somewhere in Andaman or some other place, he also knows that 2 plus 2 is only 4. That means human mind is structured in the same way. Similarly, the mind of a goat is structured in the same way. Goat does not go and kill another animal. Goat eats only grass. Similarly, a tiger's mind is structured in the same way, whether it is an Indian tiger or a Bengal, some other African tiger or some other tiger. So that means this individual intelligence or individual consciousness is something which is guided by some other external, some other universal consciousness. Unless there is some universal consciousness, your mind will be different from somebody's mind in Africa. And your mind may be same as goat's mind or say donkey's mind or some other tiger's mind. It is not so. So, which means that the individual mind is something which is derived from something called a cosmic consciousness. We also gradually we realize. So this is an exercise. Suppose let us say this is an exercise. It says you think about what is the relationship between you and the external universe or the universe as a whole. So we realize that this, what we call this microcosm or individual consciousness, is not much different from the macrocosm or the collective consciousness or the collective mind, as you call it. So this is one exercise. So similarly, suppose you take another exercise. Another exercise is, for example, in Chandogya Upanishad and many other Upanishads, it talks about the Dahara Akasha. There is a word called Dahara Akasha, that is the space which is there in your own mind. The space which is there in your own Hridaya Akasha, in your own heart or heart space or mind space. Chida Akasha also it is said, Chida Akasha. So what is that mind space? That is the consciousness which is reflecting in your mind, and what is its relation to the supreme consciousness. So how is it related? So it tells you, you just meditate, you keep on meditating on this particular subject, that the consciousness which is getting reflected on in your mind is not different from the supreme consciousness. And then for meditating on this, it gives you certain data. It also tells about how the mind has originated and all these things. It gives some data. So keeping that data in mind, you start dwelling, you start meditating on the relationship between your mind and the cosmic mind. So this is another exercise where we again realize that this, whatever is this microcosm, is not much different from this macrocosm. So, and then when I say this in a few minutes, it doesn't mean that say this awareness or this particular awareness is a better word. This awareness doesn't come in a minute. Suppose you read Taittiriya Upanishad, you listen to that Akasha, Vayu, etc., and then you immediately realize that this microcosm is the same as macrocosm. It doesn't happen like that. So how does it happen? It happens only by a constant meditation, because a human being, all said and done, he is dragged by so many impulses, he is dragged by so many, impressions which are there in his unconscious. You see, mind is at two levels. One is the conscious mind, where you are just handling the present. There is another unconscious mind, which is a bundle of impressions. In Sanskrit we call it vasana. All these vasanas, they influence the present behavior also. All these vasana or samskaras, this is a bundle of impressions, earlier impressions which is there in that mind. So this is, in modern psychologists, they call it unconscious. In that unconscious, that particular unconscious is actually guiding us. It is influencing us. So we have to come out of that influence. If we want to come out of that influence and then start doing this meditation, it has to be a continuous affair. It has to be a continuous thing. So that is why we do Sandhyopasana every day. Why is Sandhyopasana prescribed for us? Sandhyopasana is that Sandhya Vandanam as we call it. Every day, in the morning, in the afternoon and also in the evening. That means 3 times a day, a person is supposed to chant Gayatri Mantra. So what is so great about that Gayatri Mantra? Because that Gayatri Mantra tells you that the consciousness which is in your mind is the same as that supreme consciousness. So that is what in brief it tells. The consciousness which is in your mind, the consciousness associated with the Savita, that is Surya, the consciousness which is there, that is supreme consciousness, they are all one. So that is what it tells. So 3 times a day you do then some japa. You are supposed to chant it 108 times, and then that means out of that 108 times, at least for some time, if you just dwell on the meaning of that mantra, then that itself is great. Because while chanting that mantra, your mind is wandering here and there. So without allowing our mind to wander, if we try to dwell on the meaning of that mantra, that is a useful meditation. So like that abhyasa, it is called abhyasa. Abhyasa is practice, a continuous repetition is what is called abhyasa. So this abhyasa only gives this particular awareness, and awareness doesn't come straight away by just reading a text or by listening to a lecture or by sitting and meditating on just once. On one fine morning you just meditate, it doesn't happen. And then, in fact, Shankaracharya gives an example as to what a meditation should be. He says, Taila dharavat tulya pratyaya santati, he says. So suppose you take some oil. I think this example also I had given earlier. You take an oil. And what is the speciality of oil? It is so viscous. It is so viscous. And then you put it in a beaker and then pour through a beaker. When you pour through a beaker, it is some narrow line. A narrow line comes like a thread, an unbroken thread. Tailadharavat tulya pratyaya santatihi. So the meditation has to be such a stream, a continuous stream of similar thoughts. Tulya pratyaya. Tulya pratyaya means similar thoughts. Tulya, same, similar. So tulya pratyaya santatihi. Santati means a stream. So a stream of similar thoughts and undisturbed by any dissimilar thoughts. Asankirna cha atat pratyayahi, he says. So a stream of continuous stream of thoughts on a particular subject, undisturbed by dissimilar thoughts. So that is what is the definition given by Shankaracharya for meditation. And this meditation cannot, should not be stopped. Should not be stopped one day and then you can't leave it. That has to be a continuous thing. So that is why we are supposed to do prayer so many times, and then every morning you have to say prayer, and then this japa and all these things, they are all prescribed only for that reason. So what is the ultimate result? What is the ultimate result of this meditation? The ultimate result of this meditation is your attitude to the world changes. Your outlook changes. Your egocentric ideas, they change. The egocentric ideas, they gradually fade away. The egocentric ideas means, okay, I have this social identity, I am so and so, I have to do this is my thing. So all this so-called me and mine, that gets slowly weakened. So in fact that is the meaning of Upanishad also. Upanishad is supposed to gradually weaken our association, our bondage with the individual self, and then enable us to discover oneness with the entire universe. So this idea of oneness, the idea of oneness with everything, Upanishads call it Sarvatma Bhava. Sarvatma Bhava means the self which is in me is the same as the self is in every being. So which means you love all other beings like your own self. It is a sort of unconditional love for all beings. So meditation, Vedic meditation is designed to take a man from the egocentric level to a higher level where he finds oneness with the whole universe, where he has an unconditional love for all beings. So this, in short, is meditation. And then maybe if we see Yoga Shastra, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, we will know more and more about these meditations. Thank you.